Keith has pointed this out about me before, about my lack of confidence and the fact that I don't think highly of myself. And so we were talking about that, and then he asked me, he goes, well, how were you disciplined as a child? How did your parents discipline you? And I told him, well, my dad hit me. You know, he would, punch me and stuff when I didn't.
Punch you how?
Punch me like a
arm,
like a dude, like
head, arm, stomach, everything.
Yeah, just not in my face, but like.
What do you mean, like? What are you doing? Punch? Like,
yeah.
How does that work? Or was he like, punishment now? Here comes your arm.
It could be either or. It was two ways. I grew up with two sisters, and then my mom and dad and me. And my sisters never got hit, but when I would do something wrong, my mom sometimes would also make my dad, like when he's like, will you handle your son? He did this, and my dad, in defense of him, knew no better. He grew up with 5 brothers from Italian immigrants.
I think any generation knew you didn't punch your kids.
I don't think so. I think that's like...
That's ridiculous.
I think it used to be...
Not these guineas, though,
I'll tell you the...
blood, I get fiery.
Didn't it used to be a way for a father to sort of teach his son to man up, to like, this punch shouldn't be anything. You better fucking fix your shit.
He knew it was wrong when his dad did it to him. And the dad's doing it again, even though deep down he knows it's wrong.
In defense of my dad, here's what happened. This is like 10th grade. He's a carpet salesman, my dad, and he would get these points from work if he sold certain things. So he had this like really expensive Walkman that he would never use. It was called the Budokan for whatever the Walkman was. So he would never use it. So I took it, even though he told me not to, and I used it. And I just remember the day he found out, he just beat the piss out of me. Just
wailed into you.
Just wail. Yeah. I was in the bathroom, and he just came in and just started punching and kicking and just beat the shit out of me.
Like you're on the ground. He's punching, he's kicking.
Yeah, and he just kept.
You don't touch a black man's radio.
So my dad beat the piss out of me, and then like a day or two later in school, we were writing papers about something, and whatever it was, like I wrote about it in the paper, not even consciously thinking.
How about 1 second? How about the first day you go back to school? No teacher says, what the fuck happened?
No, because he never punched me in my face or whatever, so it's not visible.
Okay.
So anyways,
so that's another way he knows it's wrong.
Yeah,
I mean?
Yeah. That's.
You think so,
or
I'm really being honest. Like, or do you think that he knows not to touch his kid's face because he could do some more damage, like real brain damage or break a nose?
So
or something?
he's thinking this through as he's kicking and beating his son on the ground. He's like, I need to teach him about a Walkman. Like afterwards, I know.
Control.
After I punish him, we'll sit down and we'll talk about why I had to punish. This is a horrible fathership.
Yeah. So anyways, I wrote in the paper, whatever, not even, it never even occurred to me any repercussions or something that could happen. And so then...
so what are you writing?
I forget to the day, like, what I wrote. Right. But then, like, a day or two later, my teacher's like, hey, I saw the paper, like, I read the paper, and this is not right. I've told some social workers, and... So we had social workers come over.
Oh my God!
Come over to our house
and
like look at our living arrangement and everything, and I felt horrible. I was like, "What? No, this is no." Like,
because that must have got you a beating.
Yeah. Well, here's the
kind of deserved it on that one. I'm bringing in the outsiders.
Well, here's the thing. Like my dad didn't beat the piss out of me every day. It's not like he came home from work like, "Where's my son? I got to punch somebody." Like he didn't do that. Like it was. But still, it's not acceptable to be doing that.
So the social workers
worker comes over and they talk to us and everything and like interview the whole family in our living situation. And my dad said to me, he goes, you know what? He goes, I'm sorry, and I will never hit you again. And he never did.
Wow.
He never did. That was it.
Is that as far as the conversation went? Just, I'm sorry, I'm never going to do it again. You were like, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Like he really felt bad. It really took for that social worker to come over and say, no, you don't do this. And then he stopped.
It kind of makes a case for that ignorance thing.
It does, or that
He doesn't want to get in trouble.
he doesn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
You're on the list now.
Yeah, no, but my dad never hit me. And you know what's weird? Like,
Was he a drinker, by the way?
no, sober. And then, but my
Sober as in not drinking completely at all, or just doesn't get drunk?
No, he just doesn't drink. He never drank.
He's not inclined.
No. And then also, like, found like I'm a loner, and a lot of my loner behavior, the therapist attributed to the fact that my two sisters, like, my parents are both working full time, so it'd be my sisters and I at home, and we fight or whatever, argue, whether arguing like who watches what on TV, dumb shit. And then my sisters like call my dad or whatever, and
Well, you're not fighting over bills.
yeah. And so then my dad would come home and hit me, and then my sisters would see me getting my ass kicked, and then they would be like, "Oh no, stop!" And what's fucked up in my head, I should be mad at my dad, but in my head I'm like mad at my sisters. Like somehow this is their fault for this happening, which is like that's stupid because it wasn't my sisters.
Now, what's your mom doing? Your mom knows something's going on.
You know what? You know what? And I love my mom, and we had a good relationship. But for some reason, she was not big on men, like in general. Like she would talk shit a lot about my uncles and stuff. She did not. I don't know. We never talked about it, but I think she encouraged my dad to hit me. Like she was the one that was like, she was upset when he quit hitting me because she was like, well, someone's got to keep him in line.
Do you remember when you reached that age where it didn't hurt as much, but you'd act like it did, so that would be the end of the punishment?
No, because my dad stepped up the beating. So
Right.
like he didn't. When he saw it wasn't hurting me, then my dad didn't mess around when he hit me. When he hit me, like he hit me. I got fucking beat up.
My mother used to pit. She would pit me and my sister against each other. She was an alcoholic. She would throw things at me. She would constantly gaslight me.
Yeah, my dad used to beat the shit out of me. So that was.
I had to get away from my mom somehow.
Speaking of like getting hit,
And I don't like working.
I got hit as a kid. I got it. My dad used to hit me. I did not know that parents. Neither did my parents. They did not. I did not know that you were not supposed to get hit by your parents. This is in 9th grade, and we're just writing a paper, and they just wrote in the paper. I mentioned how my dad beat the shit out of me one day. What happened is my dad was he was a carpet salesman, and if you sold so much carpet, you get these rewards where you get free stuff. So this free he got like this $400 is a Budokan Sony Walkman, and he never used it, and I took it once, and I just went to school with it and used it, and then he told me not to use it. And then one day when he saw that I used it, he beat the piss out of me, just punched me, whatever. And I just happened to be writing a paper for school in 9th grade, and I just mentioned, not even thinking it was a wrong thing to mention. I just assumed everybody gets hit. So I mentioned in the paper that my dad hit me, and my teacher gave it to the guidance counselor. And then they sent someone to our house to talk to my parents. We all had to have a meeting. And after that, my dad never hit me again because he didn't know that it wasn't appropriate to. I'll be honest, I used to hit my sisters when we were young, because here's the deal, they would call my mom and bitch about me or something. I was already getting in trouble. So I was looking back at it now, I just had this all right, I'm already in trouble. I'm already getting in trouble. So this is, might as well. I would hit my sisters until, I would punch them just because it's I'm already going down. Now, when I was in high school, that I stopped that. After that whole thing, when I was 14 with my dad, that's when everyone quit hitting in my house. But until then, and by the way, my sisters would hit me too. They'd throw shit at me. They'd throw glasses at me and shit. But yeah, I'm just letting you. And I love my sisters now. They got their own lives and stuff. But yeah, I'm still cool with them. I love them both. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I used to. Yeah, I wasn't innocent. I'd hit my sisters too. I'll own it. I did it. looking back on it, like that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that, but I mean, I knew it was wrong to hit but it was like I was already getting in trouble. Like already.
Yeah, but you knew that's how
my dad was going to come home and hit me regardless. You know? So it's like, I'm already getting my ass kicked from my dad when he gets home from work. So, all right, I know I'm getting punched. So let me.
Well, you learned that hitting was like a thing to do, though. If nobody hit anybody in your house, it wouldn't have like maybe occurred to you to hit.
Yeah, which was the only thing that was beneficial about that, getting hit and beat up all the time, is like I wasn't afraid to get beat up by other kids. Like,
that's exciting.
Because I already knew how to take punches. So like when a kid that was like I'd be like, fuck it, I'm going down anyway. So I would like start fights with kids that were bigger than me just because like, all right, they're gonna beat the shit out of me anyways. Like it's like I'm not afraid of getting punched. I've taken some punches. So yeah.
You know how many times my dad hit me in front of people and nobody was appalled? But if my dad was drinking and driving with me in the car, they'd probably be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, my dad didn't hit me every day. It wasn't every day like, come over here. This is, you're getting it. But no, I did get, I did. And you know when it stopped is I was writing a paper in like 9th or 10th grade about something. And I was just being honest, wasn't trying to start anything. And I wrote in there about my dad hitting me because he was a salesman. He would get like, you make so many sales, you get free stuff. So he got this free top of the line. It was a Sony.
Oddly enough, you got hit when he didn't hit his quota.
Yeah. Yes. But it was a Sony Budokan, like a top of the line Walkman. And he never used it. And he's like, don't use this. This is mine. And like, I like took it to school one day and he saw that I had it and he beat the shit out of me. And that was the last time he hit me. And I just happened to be writing a paper. I didn't know you weren't allowed to hit kids. And I just like wrote it in this paper. And next thing you know, a social worker, my teacher showed it to whoever, and a social worker came over to our house and had to tell my dad he's not allowed to hit his kids.
Hilarious.
Yeah. And that's when he stopped hitting us. There was no more hitting. And then my mom would give me sarcasm. Like every time I did something wrong, like, what are you going to do? Write a paper about this?
So funny. That's so great.
Yeah. Like she always held that against me.
But then the idea that she couldn't write what she wanted to write was, and I'm a writer.
Yeah, I will say this: when I was in 9th grade, my dad used to hit us growing up. We'd get hit, and sometimes I think my dad got hit. I assumed every kid got hit. I didn't know. This what put an end to my dad hitting us is I was in 9th grade and I turned in a paper. I forget what was it about, but I mentioned my dad was a carpet salesman and he would get like free bonus stuff if you sold so much. They were called like points. And one of the things he got with the points was this top of the line Sony Walkman. And my dad never used a Walkman, but it was like a retail, like, and this is back in the 90s. So like a $350 Walkman if you went to Radio Shack to buy it, but he never used it. And it was called a Sony Budokan, whatever Budokan was. But so I would use it and he got mad at me. He's like, don't use. And then one day I was in the house and I had it and he beat the shit out of me. And I, not even thinking of anything, we had to write, and I mentioned it in a paper in 9th grade, and they sent a social worker over to our house.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
do you remember what you wrote?
It was a science paper was the problem, you know.
No, it was an
like,
English paper. Yeah.
Ionic bonds are, anyway, my dad used to beat the shit out of me. And
yeah. And I just remember like being, I remember my teacher telling me, and I just started crying. I'm like, what? No,
Right.
And then I remember my mom and my mom used that as a weapon against me after, like, anytime anything happened in the house, what are you gonna do? Write a paper about it?
Well, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So you're getting like abused essentially. It's like your fault.
Yeah. So then,
what are you gonna become a comedian and talk about your feelings for your whole life?
Yeah. But I just remember, and then he didn't hit us again after that. Like that put an end to in his defense, he didn't know you weren't supposed to beat the shit out of your kids.
My dad hit me.
Mine didn't. Yeah. But if you had kids, do you plan to have kids?
No, I don't plan on having kids.
And so, but for all the kids that exist, you've never beaten up a kid, right? You've never. Yeah. So look, you've ended the cycle of violence.
Well, when I was a little kid, I did hit my sisters. They hit me.
Oh yeah, but you were a kid.
All right. But I will say this. So I used to get hit by my dad. I assumed everyone got hit by their parents. I just assumed so.
When you're a kid, you think that your experience is universal.
So I'm in 9th grade, and my dad hit me. He was a carpet salesman. He would get like, if you do so much stuff, you get like free. So he got a Walkman, this top of the line Sony Walkman. My dad never used a Walkman, but he was like, don't use a Walkman. Then I would use the Walkman. And then one day he saw me using the Walkman and he just beat the crap out of me. Now, I didn't even think anything of it, but I was writing a paper in school and I just mentioned it in the paper. And then I knew something was up because the teacher's like giving back all the papers. And she didn't give me mine back. And then she was like, Ray, I need to see you after class. I'm like, all right, without not even thinking anything.
Right. It's part of your normal, the water you've been swimming in your whole life.
Yeah. And she's like, I gave your paper to social services. And I started crying right there in front of the whole, and they're like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Like, she didn't have to do this in front of the whole class.
Oh, it's in front of the class? Yeah, that's not optimal.
And I just started crying. I'm like, what? No. I'm like, where's the paper? She's like, I don't have the paper. I was like, so then she called, and then they came over. They talked to me and my parents. My dad never hit me after that.
Great.
But what my mom, both my parents are dead. They both died young. I love my parents if they were alive, I'd give them shit for some stuff, but in a loving way. But my mom used to use that against me for years. Like anytime something didn't go my way, and I was like, what are you going to write a paper about this? What are you going to write a paper? Like, would throw it back in my face.
Well,
my dad used to, I thought every kid got hit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was like a thing.
Just the retarded ones.
Yeah. I didn't know that it was such a thing that kids didn't get hit. So I was in 10th grade and I wrote a paper about my dad beating the shit out of me. And it was all over the paper. And then like she handed back the papers. Miss Pertu was her name.
All over your paper.
No, she handed the class back all of our papers.
Yeah. When you said it was all over the paper, you mean yours the local newspaper?
No, it did not make the news. She was handing back the class all their papers. Now, the only one that didn't get a paper. I didn't get my paper back.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on here? And then she goes, and this is while the whole class is still there. And she says to me, she goes, Ray, I saw your paper. I want to talk to you about it afterwards. And then I go, and then this, like, I'm not even thinking. It's because I mentioned my dad beat the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? What's up? And she goes, you wrote some things that are concerning about your dad. She says this in front of the whole class.
Oh, my God.
About your dad hitting you. I'm going to say 9th or 10th grade.
Okay.
And I just started bawling. I just start crying my eye. I'm not even thinking I'm in front of like peers anymore. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm gonna get in so much trouble. But boy, if you thought I got hit before. Wait till this.
Yeah.
And like, what a piece of shit to do that in front of the whole class.
Do it. Period. That's between you and your dad. That's a family thing. Right? Like, don't.
Well,
get
not
involved.
even that, but don't do that in front of the entire class.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I just started crying. Like I didn't even think about it, and then I had kids making fun of me for the next like month.
You had a traumatic childhood, and then that helped you to be funny on
what's
stage.
saying it's traumatic?
Mechanism. Huh?
No, what's saying it's
you said
traumatic?
Your parents beat the shit out of you for no reason. That's pretty traumatic. I'm on
They
your side.
they didn't hit me. It's not like they woke up every day and wanted to hit me.
Yeah.
But like,
well, I didn't say that.
Like 5-6 times a year, I would get hit. It's not like I got hit all the time.
Okay, so you got hit once.
So
all right.
Yeah, that doesn't make it traumatic. Getting me hit like
so you got
over the
hit,
course of your lifetime, getting hit like 30 times from your parents.
Right. So
that doesn't make it traumatic.
When you didn't deserve to get hit the one time.
Yeah, but it was more
enough
so
to make you reject God, but it wasn't enough to make you.
I get. All right, you're not listening. The God thing was when my mom said, because God told me to do so. That's when I was like,
that's what I meant.
Yeah. So that's
what I meant.
So it's not the fact that I got hit. It's the fact that she brought God into it and like almost like blamed God. Like this is what God wanted. Like my dad would hit me because my mom would tell him to hit me. Sometimes my dad wasn't even mad at me. My mom's like, no, you have to discipline him. And like, he'd have to like work up to get angry and hit me.
So my dad was a carpet salesman. And if you sold so many carpets or whatever, you got like, they would give a catalog, you get to pick free things. So he got this like top of the line. It was a Budokan Sony Walkman. My dad never used a Walkman or whatever, but it was like a really nice Walkman. It was great. It was awesome.
Right.
And I used to take it to school with me or whatever. And then, but he told me like, oh, you're not allowed to use it, not allowed to use it, whatever. It's like, all right. In my head, I'm like, the fuck you using it for? You're not using it. And then one day he saw that I was using it. And yeah, he like beat the shit out of me for some like.
He beat the shit out of you?
Yeah, like punched me and whatever over that, not something like.
How old were you?
That big of a deal. I was like in 9th or 10th grade.
Oh shit! Okay.
And I was like, what the fuck is this all about? Like, and I mean, he hit me before, but like that was like
out of pocket.
Yeah, that was like, all right, that's, and I wasn't telling my dad or anything, but we just had to do. It was just fresh on my mind. And we had to like write a paper in English class about something.
Right.
And I just included in that story. Just including the story or whatever. I mean, I tried to relate it to whatever the topic was we were supposed to be talking. Now, in my head, I assumed all kids got hit. I did not know that was unnormal, that parents were not allowed to just
beat the shit out of their kids because of the Walkman.
Yeah. So I didn't realize like,
there's an issue at home.
Yeah. So I just wrote it in the paper. I just wrote it in like the English paper.
And what'd your teacher say?
Then when my teacher handed back the papers, I was the only, here's where she also messed up.
Yeah.
Because like, instead of like just giving me my paper back, which she did everyone else, she like stopped. And I also have anxiety. And then she like stopped. Now I'm not even putting two and two together what it could be about. But like she's handing out everyone's paper. And then like I'm like, I didn't get my paper. And then this is while the whole class is still there. And she's like, well, I need to talk about your paper after class. I'm like, well, now you just made it a thing.
Right.
Like at first I'm like, why is this a thing? And she's like, I'll talk to you about it after class. I'm like, was it good or bad or whatever? And she's like, you said some very concerning things in this in front of the whole class. This isn't just a one-on-one conversation.
Now it makes you look like a weirdo in class.
Yeah. Where now I'm like, now I'm like in my own head, like, what the fuck is going on in this paper? Like, I'm like, what? I'm like, what's? And she's like, you said some concerning things about your parents in this paper, and like, I'm not dropping it and sit down and listen to class from that. I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? And that's when she took me outside and was like, I gave it to social service. They're gonna come talk to your parents. And like, I'm like, what? No, like, what the fuck? Like, if you thought I got hit before, I'm gonna get more now.
I'm gonna get my ass beat once they're gone.
Yeah. So like, it was more like the teacher made
way worse. Yeah.
Made it 1,000 times worse because like now I'm out in the hallway screaming at her like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, what? No. She's like, go back. I'm like, no, I'm not going back into class. What the hell's going on?
Right.
And then so they just sent over.
How was that experience? Were you there for that when the?
Yeah, I was there for that because they talked to me, my two sisters, and so that was very weird. That was very odd, but like, yeah, I did. I mean, my relationship with my parents were fine. Right. At the time, it was just like one thing that happened.
Did your parents talk to you right after the person left? Or like, hey, they sat you down, like talk to you about what happened at all?
Here's what happened. This is why it was good. My dad never hit me again. Like he kind of apologized. He's like, yeah, I didn't realize. Like
you got scared straight.
Yeah, it was more like he didn't realize. Like, yeah, you're not allowed to like just hit your kids.
Right.
Like he's like. You know, he was like, yeah, I got hit all the time for like the littlest things. I just assumed that's what you do to your kids. And so like it worked out for.
So honestly, the school system broke that cycle of just abuse somewhat then.
Yeah, it wasn't abuse. It's not like I walked in the house every day and got hit.
No,
but like that was a thing where it was like, what the, that it just like, what the hell? So in a weird way, I'm glad that did happen. So that was a thing that was like, all right, I'm glad that that's out there. I mean, at first I was upset about it. And I mean, I still like, I didn't want to embarrass my parents or whatever. That was not what I was trying to do. But
An imbecile. Like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived.